Heyo.
It is 7:30 and all of our fan is watching. Hey
What's
guys,
up?
how's it going?
It's going.
My name
Good.
is Colin. Welcome to episode 29 of Roll by Roll's Tavern Talk, a show where we get in each other's grill until we're angry. No, I'm just kidding.
Sometimes.
Maybe tonight.
Tonight could happen.
But we, the Roll by Roll gang, discuss various aspects of running a great D&D campaign based on our experiences with D&D 5e and our current adventures in Emathan homebrew campaign. So joining me tonight's the rest of the Roll by Roll crew. We've got Egan, who plays Douglin. Hello, sir.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this evening's episode.
And we have Max, who plays Kogon.
Hi, I'm on a short fuse.
Excellent. That should
Just
make for fun.
Get
That
it?
should make for fun.
It's gonna be awesome.
So, carrying on from our magic theme from last week, where we had the magic of magic items, this week we're going to get into a little discussion around some aspects of spell casting. Obviously, magic's a big part of what makes D&D so much fun, and spells are a big part of that. So there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to spell casting. I think you guys would agree spellcasters are probably the most difficult class for brand new people to Dungeons and Dragons to get their head wrapped around with all the little idiosyncrasies of spell casting. So we're going to try and discuss a couple of those here in this episode. So, Max, I don't even know what your topic is, so you get to go first then. That's the rule.
Well, when we had originally talked about this, we were like, well, we could all just talk about something we want to talk about with spells kind of thing. And I was like, okay. So my thing is I just wanted to touch on a few early level spells that I think are maybe underutilized and not really talked about at all in like some of the other videos you'll see. When people are always talking about all the OP spells and all the must-have in your kit and all that sort of stuff, which is fine, but we're all very much here about exploring some of the like undervalued spells, maybe, things that admittedly are less powerful, but you could still get a lot of rewarding fun out of. And so I chose one from each first, second, and third level, and then I have a couple honorable mentions. Okay, so I'll roll through this pretty quickly. But the first spell, it's a first level spell, and it's Sanctuary. Okay, Sanctuary. You ward a creature within range against attack. So any enemy that targets them with attack or a spell. So the area of effect spells are different because they don't target a specific creature, but anything that targets that creature that's affected by Sanctuary, they have to make a wisdom saving throw, or else, and if they fail, they have to choose another target, or they lose the attacker spell completely. And so the caveat of why this isn't OP is because the subject of the Sanctuary can't attack or cast a spell on another creature, or their Sanctuary ends, right? But if you're doing something cool, like maybe you're playing a almost pure support character, you could cast that on yourself. It doesn't require concentration. It's only a bonus action to use. And so you can start using it willy-nilly. You can have 5 people up with Sanctuary if you're not, as long as they're not attacking. Do you know what I mean? But even just a buff for a round or something. If it doesn't say anything about them being conscious. So if you have an ally who's down and they're subject to death saving throws, and when you're down and you can get attacked and take extra death saves against you.
Yep.
So you can cast Sanctuary on that person, and now all of a sudden they have, a ward to protect them against possibly getting attacked when they're on the ground. Little
That's a
things
cool
like that.
use of that, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a really cool interpretation for that. That's
But if
cool.
you were like a cleric or an Oath of Redemption paladin or whatever, there's a few classes that get this. You could literally play like a buffing and support class and just shroud yourself in this for a very minor cost, and just kind of protect yourself very efficiently. So that's my first level spell that I recommend people try out. Okay, This next one, second level, it is definitely very powerful, but no one ever really talks about it, and I think it's because it's limited to humanoids. But Hold Person is got to be just this unreal spell. It's a concentration spell. If they fail their save, the person is now paralyzed. And when a creature is paralyzed, that means that any attacks within 5 feet of it that hit are automatic critical strikes. So it's extraordinarily powerful, limited to humanoids. There's a higher level version, I think it's level 5 or 6, that is Hold Monster, and you can use it on anyone at that point. But obviously, it's high level because that encompasses all the creatures of D&D. You know what I mean? But if you're in a human centric campaign plot at the moment, equip Hold Person. It won't do you wrong. And my honorable mention there is Spike Growth. Not just for druids. There's a few other classes and subclasses that can get it. But Spike Growth creates an area of thorns that people have to walk through. And when they do, they take damage per square, like 5-foot space that they pass through. And it's a great way, if you can position it right, to soften up enemies before they get to your party. Okay.
Difficult terrain too, right?
Yeah, it's difficult terrain, so they have to move slowly through it too. So it's very, very powerful, very fun. Again, not really talked about. It's not really up on the lists of must-have spells, and I think again, it's one of those ones that's overlooked a lot of the time. Okay, third level. I love this one, Blink. So Blink, again, not concentration. It lasts for a minute, and it basically gives you a 50% chance to vanish into the ethereal plane. And so I think probably, unless you're doing some specific exploration into the ethereal plane, but like in a battle, this could be pretty clutch. You're basically have a 50% chance to take yourself off the battlefield for a round, and you come back on your turn to do your thing, and at the end of your turn, you might be back to just complete safety again. Very cool spell. I don't think I need to say much more about it, but again, just not really talked about. And again, no concentration. So if you get hit, whatever, it's still up. It's basically
why is that, Max? How come there's no concentration for Blink?
Because it's pretty random.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's random. It's not.
So you get the full use of the minute without concentration.
Okay. Yes, but you can't.
Oh, really... I'm just asking questions.
You're also though not subject to any positive effects either. Do you know what I mean? No one can cast stuff on you, right? So there is like a trade-off there, potential trade-off. Okay, and then my other third level honorable mention goes to Water Walk, which people might glance over this if they're just looking at a spell list. They don't know very much, but Water Walk, it's a ritual, so that's another nice thing if you can cast ritual spells. So you don't have to use up a spell slot if you have the time to use a ritual. But you can walk over any liquid surface. It says right in here, such as water, acid, mud, snow, quicksand, or lava, as if it was harmless solid ground. You might still take heat damage or whatever, but like just the utility in this. I remember playing this in my campaign that I ran a couple years ago, and I didn't know it could go over lava until one of my players cast this spell, and I was like, wow, you just broke this encounter. And it works on up to 10 people. Just right there, right for the cast. Pretty amazing. Again, no concentration. It lasts for an hour. It's like considered a movement spell, but it has a lot of adventuring utility and even some combat utility. So there we go. There's my little like.
In your example, what were they able to flee the encounter across lava, or
it was on lava? So they weren't planning on going on the lava. They had this like narrow platform that they were fighting on. It wasn't even a platform because it was like this lava all around them. They were in this underground cavern. There was a red dragon sleeping way off in the distance that they talked to later, kind of thing. But they were fighting these elementals and stuff, and and fire giants. There was fire giants around too, and so they were worried about getting tossed into the lava, right? Because it's huge damage if you actually fall into lava.
Oh my God! Yeah, it's not good.
So
but as it should be.
Yeah, it's lava. It's literally molten lava.
Like, I got this prepared. We're gonna be good. And they just cast Water Walk, and I was like, oh, that took like half the danger.
Well, there went the edge of the encounter, right?
Yeah. So it was very clever. I still had them, take some fire, like heat damage, of course. It's lava, but
Yeah.
They didn't have to like, yeah, take 80 damage from falling in a pool of lava or something like that. So
Cool.
yeah, it was cool. So water walk is definitely, it's not even an honorable mention. It's probably like tied with blink for maybe like some of the best overlooked spells in the game. So there we go. My little blurb on
Yeah,
things.
so I like that. I think there's a lot of very cool flavor spells.
Yeah.
So like especially if you have a campaign um where characters are, where the role playing aspects are a big part of your campaign more than just, some campaigns might be a little more hack and slash. There's
Yeah.
so many fantastic spells that can just add flavor to the situations. Like you may have situations where there's a lot more diplomacy in your campaign. Well, that would really change up the type of spells that you would select
Yeah.
from the list. I mean, Fireball may not be the best choice you have there. You're looking for ways to manipulate a little more, right? Anything to
Oh,
add in there, Egan?
Yeah, I would, and I love underrated spells for the reason that you just said, Colin. Shape water as a cantrip is freaking awesome, and I never see anybody take it. The utility that you can get out of that. Now, obviously, you got to have a water source, so carrying around an extra water skin is probably not that big of a deal to do. But if you're close to a water thing, you can literally walk over it because you can freeze 2 5-foot squares at one
oh, that's
time.
awesome.
Yeah. Also, if you have like because you can control it, that same 5-foot cube you can put over somebody's head and then just let it drop. I think some dude did the math and it's like 1,100 pounds will drop on someone's head. That's a non, not a normal way to use it, but also like you can put it in a lock and freeze the lock and have it pop. You can make ice sculptures. What's not cool about that? I like that's another honorable mention for like very little used cantrips, at least from what I've seen. So I like that one as well.
Yeah,
I
I was
wouldn't.
just looking for a real quick example. There's the spell Calm Emotions, right? And you
Oh
think to
yeah.
yourself, who's going to use calm
Yeah,
emotions, right? But
yeah,
if you have a campaign where there's a lot of role
Yeah.
playing, a lot of diplomacy, things like that, spell like that, you could probably find a use for,
yeah.
just as an example.
My only other thing I'd like to add is just in the vein of spell selections is have I'd say really try to have fun with like being thematic with your character. You know what I mean? And really
100%.
just try have fun, just dial in on spells that exactly suit the flavor and theme of the character you're creating. Even
Yep.
if it's something as simple as like, okay, I'm a school of, I don't know, divination wizard, right? Try to pick like 90% divination spells if you
Yeah.
can. Just see what you can creatively make happen out of that and just like, if some stuff doesn't work out, whatever. Talk to your DM, get some more spells. This shouldn't be
Yeah.
that big a deal. You know what I mean? But like
Oh
really
yeah,
just
there's no,
play
there,
it,
I
have
mean
fun.
beyond the ones that are there's no shortage of spells. I
Yeah.
mean you can go out into on the interwebs there and there's more spells than you can shake the stick at.
No.
Yeah.
Um okay, I think I'm going to go first cuz I feel like our last topic might be the doozy of the evening.
Barn burner.
Yeah, so mine's a pretty simple one here. I wanted to talk about components
Mhm.
required for spell casting. So each spell potentially has a verbal, semantic, and material component. They don't all have all three. Um, so verbal, obviously, there's some sort of mystical words that you have to mutter in order to cast that spell. I know for myself as a DM, one thing you have to think about is there may be situations both on purpose and not on purpose where the caster cannot utter a verbal component. They could be gagged. An example they give in the player's handbook is someone could cast silence on them.
Yeah.
You could be underwater. Like, there's lots of reasons. So you might have to think about that a little bit in terms of if someone wants to cast a spell. Somatic. So that is some sort of gesture that has to be performed. Yeah, just like those.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
It's
what
not
spell
working.
that
Warlock,
casts.
some sort of warlock spell.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just cast Dispel Magic. That's not going to help Egan.
You turned it off on me. How about this one? There we go.
Um,
It's
so
charm
again, I
spell.
mean, something as simple as tying the hands of a spellcaster could stop them from being able to cast certain types of spells.
Yep.
And I actually I messed this up a little bit. I don't think you guys would have caught on to it. It wasn't a big deal, but I thought about it afterwards. If you remember back when Obadiah was captured, when he had his alter ego, and I made a specific point of saying they had tied up his hands, so
Hmm.
that in my mind, so he wouldn't be able to cast spells. But then I'm like, they wouldn't know that, so they wouldn't went out of their way to tie up his hands so he couldn't cast spells. So
Right.
that means he would have been free to cast spells, but regardless, not a big deal. But another thing, DMs and players need to think about, if you're climbing up the side of a cliff, you may not be able to cast a spell that has a somatic component.
Yep.
And last but not least, material components. And this is the one for me I think is very important for the group to decide on before you start. How finicky do you want to get around material components? Because you can make it as simple as a spellcasting focus, some sort of arcane focus. Now you don't have to worry about spell components ever, right? It's a done deal. Go and cast all you want in terms of the material components. You can get a component pouch. The idea behind that is it has this first aid kit worth of all the types of spell components you may need. You might say once in a while when you're in town you'll need to refresh your spell component pouch if there's been a lot of casting. But you could also go on the other end and really get into the whole spell component in terms of having to quest for those items or purchase them or create them, or that could really be an aspect of your game that you put in there, where spell components become a very important part of the overall story, where you're actually looking for the components and collecting them as you go along, or trying to acquire them, or that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those little parts of spell casting that I think we often forget about. And it does have the potential to change situations based on whether someone could actually cast that spell based on the components required, if for some reason they can't meet one of those requirements, right? Any
Mhm.
thoughts on that, guys?
Me, you, me.
Yeah,
You go
me and
first.
you,
Oh,
me.
okay, I'll go. How about that? Thank you. Sorry, Max. I'd like to treat components basically in the broad scheme, if you will, but there are, specific things like, going into the, to the vocal part of it. Like there are certain spells that, like take the bard, a message, he whispers. And I think if, sometimes I hear characters trying to be quiet and cast magic missile and they still want to be stealthy. It's like, no, you can't be stealthy when you're
When you have a verbal
in,
component.
incanting a
Yeah.
spell unless it's specifically quiet. Also, there are powers that magic users or sorcerers or warlocks
Sorcerer.
gain
Yeah.
to eliminate certain things, like quicken or something. I know there's a few like spells that they or powers that they learn to not have to do that,
Yep.
right? Like
Yep.
they don't have to make any motion; they can just cast it. So I think if you don't tip your hat to those things, you lessen those powers down the road.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then in regards to kind of the material side of thing, I agree, Colin. If it's a specialty, you got to have them get it. A diamond for revivify, I think it is.
Yeah.
Pearl for identify.
Oh yeah,
Like,
all the material
I think
cost
yeah,
ones. Yeah.
any yeah, it even says that in the rules. If there is a
you gotta do
cost
it.
associated with that
Yeah,
specific component,
yeah.
they have to acquire it
You,
and pay the cost.
you got to do it. Otherwise, it's sort of like taking
Everybody's getting
shortcuts.
resurrected.
You're gonna need that diamond, so invest in it. So no, I think components are a fun part of it. I don't get into the minutia. I personally would not have a magic users go buy components other than a casual. Yeah, I went and bought it here. All right, take 5 gold away from it, and then move on.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I like them. I like that it's there.
Anything to add, Max?
Yeah, I mean, I love the flavor of a wizard specifically who like pulls out like the salt and the things and is like throw them in the air and casting the spells, but I don't necessarily feel the need to have them be having them hunt for it and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
but um I'll just back it up with the spell cost components, you know what I mean? Because those spells have those costs for a reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's an extra layer of like you don't just have the spell slots, you have to have this sometimes very expensive component in addition, and that's because it is batting above its level right there. You know what I mean? Like those are keys to players or hints to players about like how effective these spells can be in their different categories. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it kind of it puts a price on some really powerful spells. Like you can't
Mhm.
just be pulling this thing out of your pocket over and over and over again because there is a cost to casting it, right?
Revivify is the perfect example.
Yeah,
Just sums up
yeah.
the whole concept right
Yeah, what
there,
is it,
right?
like 1,000 gold piece diamond?
300.
Keep it.
Oh, is it only
Yeah,
300?
Yeah,
Maybe.
but it's not like resurrection though, right? Revivify, they have to be within
yeah.
a minute
Yeah,
of having gone
within
down.
a
So
minute.
There's also like a lower level one that needs a 500 GP diamond. Was it not color spray, but prismatic? Oh, what the hell's it called?
oh, it's 100 GP diamond. It's
For
chromatic orb.
chromatic orb. There you
Chromatic
go.
orb.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
And you gotta find it, man. I mean,
Yep.
it's otherwise
But
you
it
ain't
doesn't
casting it.
consume it. It doesn't
No, you
consume
just
it.
Right,
gotta have it
right,
as
You have to
right.
part
have
of
it.
Yeah,
casting the spell.
yeah.
Yep.
No, I agree.
Yeah, fun.
Cool. Okay, Egan, why don't you lead us into the highlight of the night? We're just gonna sit back and watch the show.
Well, I'm gonna get it started. I'm gonna, put the gasoline on the fire, and I'm sure Max is gonna come in with the match. But
Well, and anyone who
um,
watches this, too bad comments are turned off.
oh no! So we had a lot of debate off camera, so that's why we're saving this for last. But basically, the topic is concentration, and I will preface this by saying that I think it is a must, absolutely a must for, especially for Magic users. They shouldn't be able to just stack power after power after power. And there again, too, there are specialty powers that certain Magic users gain to have multiple concentration spells going at once. So I believe in concentration. However, I think in some instances it is inconsistent. And when it comes to the paladin, I think it's downright cruel and unfair, and I will die on this hill. All
Oh,
right. So let me
yeah,
start. Let
you
me
get your
start.
thing.
Let me start by this. Let me start with the inconsistencies first. Okay. You mentioned a wonderful spell, blink. Why is blink not concentration? And why is pass without a trace concentration? What's the difference?
Love it.
Hold that thought. Uh, aid, blindness, mass suggestion, grease, and one of my favorites is synaptic static, which I think correlates to where a lot of inconsistencies come in. It is a damage spell, so even if they save, they take damage. However, on a failed save, for a minute, they have muddled thoughts. They subtract a d6, but there's no concentration from the caster. It's just sort of an effect that lands on them, and sticks with them for a minute. Now, they again can take a save after each round, but the caster does not have to concentrate for that power or effect to stick with it, right? So I don't know if it's an oversight on synaptic static.
I mean, it's a 5th level spell.
I understand, but they're, all the summoning spells, 7th level summoning spell are concentration, right? So you could literally cast something, get hit, and your summoning goes away. Now, that makes sense, but then why is Find Steed, Find Familiar, Find Greater Steed not concentration in that same vein? And again, I know, Max, you can make the argument that one is there to cause all hell to break loose, but Find Greater Steed can do a pretty good amount of damage, and there are some summoning spells that are equal as far as the CR that shows up. So inconsistent, right? And then let's take a special turn to the Paladin. um, Basically, I think they get the short end on some of their concentration spells, and mostly as it relates to specialized smites. Now, just before we went on, Max confirmed that Divine Smite can stack with these, so it does lessen the blow a little bit. But I'm going to give you an example that I think a specialized smite has just so many things to overcome to actually have a decent effect that it makes it not worth taking. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to get at. Branding smite. You have to take a bonus action to cast it. There's no, it's not based on a hit. You have to cast it and then hope you hit. So there's the bonus action you use, then you have to hit the target. The target can then save, okay? And then if they save, then you go next round, melee character gets also attacks on it, and therefore it could lose concentration. So, and then if, let's say by some miracle, all of those happen and they actually take the effect, the character then has a chance to get rid of the effect after each round. So that seems like an awful lot to just get 2 rounds worth of things for it to be effective, right? Blinding Smite, for example, awesome to blind a character. It's a 3rd level spell slot that has to jump through all of these hoops for what? For just maybe a round or 2, maybe if you're lucky, if you pass through all those things. Anyway, it just seems for my part that specific to these types of things, there might be a better way to just sort of like 1d4 round that it actually takes effect if it hits and they fail to save versus every round they get to re-up their save. So in closing, concentration is needed. Concentration is inconsistent, and concentration screws over paladins, and I will die again on this hill. You have the floor, gentlemen.
All right, may I?
Yes, Max.
All right.
Let's hear your rebuttal.
Oh, it's very simple.
You're wrong, and I hate you.
Let's go with the first spell, Branding Smite. The next time you hit a creature with a weapon attack before the spell ends, the weapon gleams with astral radiance as you strike. The attack deals an extra 2d6 radiant damage to the target, which becomes visible if it is invisible, and then sheds light around it. That just happens.
If it hits.
Yeah. If you hit it with a melee attack, it happens.
Right. That's one layer. Keep going.
What's the problem? You're dealing damage on top of damage, and it uses only a bonus action, not your actual action. So you've built a 2-handed pole arm, get this bonus action attack thing. But
he's even taking shots at
paladins are
Dublin.
either doing a 2-handed weapon or a sword and shield, which means they're rarely using a bonus action anyways, right?
My pole arm master would disagree with you.
I know, that's what I'm saying. You made us a niche core, right? But even then, the bonus action apply this extra damage does more damage than your butt end of your pole arm. You know what I mean? So that one, Branding Smite, doesn't even have any saves on it, and you do an extra 2d6 damage. Okay. Blinding Smite. The attack hits. It deals an extra 3d8 damage. And then additionally, the target must make a save. All right.
And every round, it gets the save.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with you
The
don't
initial
maintain
damage.
concentration. That's just the once they're the creature is blinded, they're blinded until they make a save. It doesn't matter. You don't lose concentration. Once you've attacked, it's done.
Can we get a clarification on that?
I think
Like,
there's
do
only
you have to
one
maintain
spell that you have to maintain the
concentration?
concentration, and that's the Searing Smite. I think that's the only one where you have to maintain concentration for it to continue to do damage. Boom, boom, boom. No, I think even there. I think you're good.
We definitely need to
Should I
verify
sing
this.
while you two were researching?
Well, no, I think Blinding Smite, again, is going to fall under a couple of those where it has to, it does get a save after every round. But, I mean, Blind is a big benefit. I mean, that's a huge effect on a character, so it makes sense. It's the other part that I don't agree with. It's like all the other things, like it getting its save at the end of each round, to me, it's fine. It's the whole concentration part of this particular spell that I think should be like,
if you wanted to
why-
not
yeah.
concentrate and just you have it active until you end up hitting, then you have to take the damage off it.
You literally just take, like, it's a bonus action, or you can announce it, but you can only do it if you have a bonus action. Like, isn't there something similar? Is it Witch Bolt that has like a round by round effect as a bonus action or something?
No, you have to use your action to use Witch Bolt.
Got it.
The only
Okay.
one that does that is what's it called? Heat Metal.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can use a bonus action on each turn. It's a concentration spell, and you use a bonus action in addition to your actions to cause the heat to deal damage.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yep.
So, well, I still think they should rewrite the concentration in regards to these additional smite spells, in my humble opinion. Keep in mind, too, you're talking a half caster, not a full caster that has all of these spell slots
Yeah, of course. But that's the thing. You get to apply these to your weapon attack, which is going to be stronger than your spell attack. Okay. And then you deal extra damage when you hit, regardless of any saves. The damage is already built in there, right? And then on top of that, they got to make some saves, these extra effects. So, and the concentration helps you because you're maintaining concentration for the spell to be active on your blade or whatever. So if you do miss, you still got another go at it potentially.
All right, so now I'm going to have my little piece in here because we just about got to wrap this one up. The only thing I'm going to share in it is I agree with Max. I mean, that initial damage still happens, right? This is not what we're really talking about. I don't, and I think this is a little bit where Egan is coming from. I don't like the fact that there's sort of twice the chance that the extended effect goes away, right? Because the concentration has to occur. So if the concentration goes away, the extended effect goes away. But they also get a save each round to make it go away. That's my I mean, all that initial damage is there. It doesn't matter. But there's not as many spells or abilities where there's multiple ways where it can get broken, where it can get stopped, right? That's my only piece of it. I think
you put it better than I did, Colin. Thank you. That's really
spells,
what
though.
Oh, there are absolutely, but it just kind of there's
saves.
twice the chance that extended, like say for Searing Smite with the fire damage, there's twice the chance that it's going to go away. So that's all I'd add to it. I mean, you still get, and there's lots of spells that suffer the same sort of thing. Like I don't know if you were here when Egan and I were talking about it. The problem with concentration is it's it's a fixed effect, or an affixed mechanic is the word I'm looking for. So it doesn't fit every situation perfectly, right? It just anything in the game that is a sort of a one-shot deal isn't going to fit every spell or every ability perfectly. So that's just, I mean, that same unfortunate thing with game mechanics can be said for so many things in D&D. It just works
So
great in one place, just doesn't work great in another.
veering off, well, not off topic, but going parallel to this, okay? You know, you got to remember too that in D&D 5e, you get a lot of spell variety and slots within a class, right? Gone are the days when a wizard had like 8 or 9 spell slots at a high level, and that was it. And you had to choose if you wanted to fill 3 of those with fireballs and 2 of those with magic missile and whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah, they didn't have concentration back in those days, and you had multiple turns to cast a spell sometimes
Mhm.
because they were very, very, very powerful, and they were like game-changing effects or battle-changing effects. You know what I mean? But we're in a different era now, and with the abundance of spell abilities and stuff like that, they had to find a way to make sure that you know
No, it's
it just
concentration
overload.
is absolutely needed.
Oh yeah,
I guess though
absolutely.
I would ask though as to the inconsistencies. I mean, blindness is not a super high level spell. Why does that not need concentration? It doesn't make sense to me, right?
They,
Yes, the target gets to save after each round, but why
you,
is it
yeah, I
not
mean,
concentration?
Well, it doesn't do damage.
there are bazillions of pages of discussion around
Hmm.
the seeming inconsistency of which spells get concentration and which don't. It's
Yeah,
just it's the way it's worked out. There are definitely spells you look at it and you go, why bother putting concentration on this? And there's other
yeah.
spells you're like, why in the world does this spell not require
Hmm.
concentration? Again, it's just one of those game mechanics. It, where to a certain degree will affect the spells you choose based
Right.
on the situation you're getting into, right? I
I
think
would
to a
also
certain
like
degree.
to have a, if I may, a honorable mention, Wall of Stone. It's pretty cool.
Oh,
If you reach the end of the 10-minute concentration, it becomes permanent.
oh, that's cool.
Huh?
Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's like a
I didn't
really
know that.
cool little nuance to
you could
it.
build a fortress over
Which,
time.
if you
It's
don't
fun.
want it to still be there, that could not be great.
Yeah,
So, guys,
that's
I
by the
think
way,
there's
yeah.
still lots of stuff we could talk about around spellcasting. Maybe we could go another episode on this next round, talk about some spells again a little more, and there's still lots of things around spells, but we can take a look at it. But I think we better
No blood was
wrap
shed.
up. We better wrap up this one.
No
Sure.
blood was shed.
No blood
No.
was shed. We played very nice together, as we always do.
Yes. Yes.
So that's a wrap for episode 29. It'll be big episode 30 next time around, so that'll be cool. Hopefully anyone watching has enjoyed tonight's topic. I think spell casting is a pretty cool part of the game. A lot of minutia to it. Tavern talks occur the Wednesdays after each of our Saturday night adventures in Emathan session. Our next session is scheduled for a week and a half from now. I don't know what that date is. But for
August
those watching
3rd.
on... What's that? That
August
sounds about
3rd.
right. Somewhere around
Yeah.
there, yeah. For those who are watching on YouTube, please support us by making sure you like the videos and subscribe to the channel. You hit that little bell icon, you'll be alerted the next time we do a Tavern Talk. So guys, as we always do, we'll end the session with a little cheers. Cheers to everyone. Thanks for joining us in the Tavern. And hopefully everybody can join us next time. Thanks, guys.
Goodbye. Love you
Sign us
all.
out for the night.